My name is Michael James Bailey, also known as Speedy. I've ended up with this nickname. I'm a livestock farmer in and around the village of Denmead. I live in the village with my wife Sheridan, been married for 27 years, and two daughters, Eliza and Lucy. The business that I run really is a calf rearing exercise, and it's a three-way relationship between myself and Mr. Tim Sykes at Denmead Farm, Denmead, and at Hambledon. He's got two farms, and also Chris Martin at Manor Farm, Exton. So all the calves that I look after are born at Manor Farm at Exton. And then they come to me at about a week old, and I look after them until they are about 20 months old. And Mr. Sykes supplies buildings and grazing land. I do the dirty work, and so Chris Martin then milks the cows when they go back to him when they're in calf, once they've calved. Mother was Irish, and so Mother was one of 5 girls on the southwest corner of Ireland in the county of Cork. And so her elder sister came over to England nursing, and her second sister too, and then Mother followed them over on the pretense that she was going to be a nurse. Lasted about a fortnight in the hospital. And then she ended up working in a bar. And then the people moved to Portsmouth, asked if she would like to come and work in the bar down here. And that is how she ended up in this area. This is my mother working in the festival bar. That's my mother there on the left with some working friends. And then she met up with father, my father Buster, Dad. Yes, things progressed and they were married. Here's my father. And this picture taken by my Auntie Shirley inspired me to buy my own combine harvester, because I wanted to drive my own combine harvester. As time progressed, he managed to rent a cottage from George Windybank, who was a neighbouring tenant farmer. We were all tenant farmers on the edge of Southwark Estate. So he got the cottage from Georgie Windybank, and that's where we lived. One Hall's Cottage, Belney Lane, Southwark. Which was a mile from the farm where him and his brother worked. And there was 5 of us in the 2-bedroom cottage, and all 3 of us were in 1 bedroom. Toilet at the bottom of the garden, no bathroom as such, cold running water. If you wanted any hot water, you had to boil a kettle. Yeah, good life, absolutely superb. And that's me and my sister early days at Hall's Cottage. School in Denmead, started school when I was school age, 5 in the infant school, and then on to the junior school. I remember my first ever teacher, Mrs. Napier, lovely lady. Here we are in the turnip field at Hambledon. So these are all heifers. So when they come off of the grass in the autumn, they need something else to eat because the grass stops growing, and if we leave them in the grass fields they churn it up a bit too much. And so I am able to plant stubble turnips. Here is one of them growing rather nicely. These are planted in August, so I plant these myself with the help of my tractor driver. And we've got a drill, we drill straight into the stubble. So once the wheat has been cut, as soon as the wheat is gone and the straw is baled, we drill the turnips, we throw a bit of fertiliser, and we end up with this about 10 to 12 weeks later. And so early November we can bring the girls up here and they can spend the winter here eating turnips. They eat the whole thing. You can see the a couple of inches grows in the ground and the rest of it grows out of the ground. They will eat the lot. It's good food for them. It's easy to keep the cows outside. So what I do, once we put the fence around and the strip grazing fence up every day, twice a day. So first thing in the morning and mid-afternoonish, I move the fence a little bit, so they've got fresh turnips every day. Today we are getting the cattle in for a TB test, so a nice snowy morning. Wasn't quite what we were expecting, so the TB test that we have today is called a radial test. It's all the same test on the cows, but a radial test is caused when another farmer in the area has almost certainly had a positive case of TB, and then so everybody within 3 kilometres as the crow flies from him has to have a radial test on all of their cattle. So they all get injected with the tuberculin today, and then we read the test on Friday. So Tuesday today, I think it's 72 hours later, we read the test. My wife Sheridan,
hello,
who's here to help. Sheridan is also chief cook and bottle washer and farm paperwork advisor, secretary, calf passport applications, animal movement secretary, which is very important. So she does everything online with the British Cattle Movement Service and lots of other bits, and not only here but on the farm where the cows come from, registering all their births and all their movements too. And then Eliza.
hello.
It's all a bit of a team help today. Eliza's usually in an antiques market in Wickham. Lucy Bailey,
Hello.
youngest daughter, who is also in Wickham in a restaurant, in a tea room on the end of Wickham Square usually. So here we have Piers Galloway, and Piers has just finished at Sparshot College, and he has been coming here since he was 9 years old. He just wanted to come and ride on tractors and do tractory sort of things. And so he's been here for 9 years already, but we've only just started paying him, luckily, properly. And last, but by no means least, William Wall, who lives on Amwell Lane and has been coming sporadically for a couple of years now, in between fitting in a bit of university work at Chichester University.
Do I press enter after the first number? 99. Not that bad, you big wuss. Tests are all good. Okay, yeah, nice to meet you. Good to see you again another day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And that's the TB test result for our radial test, which is all good. So we're all fine and happy again. We're always happy on a lovely sunny day, so that's good. Today we are freeze branding the heifers. So the animals that we have here in the shed now are the ones that you saw previously grazing the turnips. So we brought them into the shed today. We brought them in yesterday actually, because we've given them a little clipping on the back end where the number has to go. So we clip the hair And then the nice man comes from Wiltshire with his freeze branding kit, and he puts it's a management number on their back end, because when they're going through the milking parlour, the cowman is always at the rear end, so if he needs to take note of a number, whether it's got a bad foot or whether it's seen bullying or all sorts of things like that, the management number is right in front of him on their rear end. So that is what we are printing on there today, with the freeze brand, and that will peel off in a day or two as a scab, and then it will grow a nice white number for them.
So in here I've got dry ice and pure alcohol, and the ice is minus 78, so pretty cold.
The older boys at school and knowing one or two, I knew my brother-in-law Mark Weller, and so used to go to Young Farmers, and I thought, well, I want to go to that. So that's how it all. That's how my early Young Farmers career started, and through the Young Farmers, they used to go to a chap called Brian Fudge at Charity Farm, Clanfield, every Christmas turkey plucking, and so Brian would invite the young farmers along for a couple of evenings, and whether 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 or 20 young farmers turned up, that they would help Brian hand pluck his turkeys. And so that's kind of how I got into with Brian Fudge, really, because eventually Brian said to me, after the turkey plucking was all done after Christmas, he had other jobs to do and he could see I looked reasonably useful, I suppose, and he said, well, do you want a bit of a Saturday job sort of thing? And things were, yeah, fine. School was fine. Didn't really, get that excited. I was reasonably intelligent. Didn't really want to be there, but I mean, I didn't skive off of school or anything along those lines. Got a maths and English O level, but just really wanted to be on the farm with Dad. Every time he went out the door to go farming, it was, "Can I come? Can I come?" Oh, why not? If he said no. And so ended up, when I left school, doing a youth training scheme, which is equivalent these days of a modern apprenticeship. And it was everything. It was varied. It was machinery. It was livestock. It was in the classroom. It was growing crops. But it was all good. Sparshot was good. And then the 2 years of day release were over, and I was still working at Brian Fudge's. So you do 2 days day release and 3 days at work on the farm. And then the third year I did a full-time course at Sparshot. So officially I had to leave Brian Fudge's at Charity Farm and did a full-time course at Sparshot, the National Certificate in Agriculture. And then came out and went back to Brian Fudge's, if I can remember rightly, for a couple of years. And it was Brian that nicknamed me Speedy. I suppose he thought I was a bit steady when I was first there, but I ended up being there for 25 years, so we always ended up getting on all right. I couldn't have been too slow, could I? So I was there, yes, for till about 1990, and then I got excited and decided I'd go travelling like a lot of other people would. Me and my brother-in-law, who is my current brother-in-law, Mark Weller, we thought we'd go to America when I think it was May 1990. And we spent about 6 months over there until we'd blown all the money, and we ought to look for a little job, and just local advert in a paper, and we ended up with a silage harvesting gang in South Georgia and North Florida, and we did that for 6 weeks, and then until the season was over, and then we came back, or nearly over, and then we came back early September, and then life was back to reasonably normal. And then I met up with Sheridan. So I'd gone to school with Sheridan at Cow Plain and Denby Juniors, and things progressed. And she was she was one of the local Young Farmers as well with her brother. So Young Farmers is good. It's a good social life. It's a good marriage bureau. Always has been. Always will be, I think. So Young Farmer's Life was good, and we got married in April '94. And I was still working for Brian, and we managed to get a mortgage and buy the house. And then the children came along, and yeah, and everything was fairly normal.
Girls, they're all in here until they calve, and then tomorrow morning, so that one will be taken away from its mother, and she'll be put in the dairy herd. 708 611. Give me plenty.
So I always dabbled with a bit of livestock, and eventually I kind of thought, well, perhaps I ought to buy some livestock locally. So I went to see a chappie by the name of Chris Martin up at Exton. Just went in there, a cold call one day, and would you sell me some calves? And I think it was around about the time of, I can't remember if it was the BSE crisis in 1996, or was it just after foot and mouth in the year 2000. But anyway, calf prices were on the floor. I remember buying Aberdeen Angus bull calves from him for £10 each in the first year. And between me and Martin the cowman and Chris Martin, we ended up with this relationship of me buying calves, and I'd take them home and rear them. And I just happened to pass comment to him one day that if you ever, because I knew that he reared his heifers on a farm away north of the county up at Whitchurch. I just happened to pass comment to him one day that if his heifer rearing job ever came up, would he consider me? And he probably said yes. And yeah, I didn't hear anything for a couple of 3 years. Just kept buying the calves from him. And then eventually he phoned me. Before I answered it, I thought, I wonder if he's ringing me to ask about rearing the heifers. And that's exactly what it was about. And so I made the decision then to leave Brian Fudge's. I could see, I mean, Brian was getting no younger, shall we say. And I wasn't going to have a job there forever. So I thought I'd branch out and do my own thing.
Not a piece of telegraph pole, that's a weight. So we mixed 3 bags this morning.
So 3 times 44 is 132. And that needs about 450 litres of water, which is just what we're pumping now. So we're just getting to the bottom of it. And there's a lot of milk feeding altogether to start with, but for an 8-10 week period, and then it's all over. And we have to do 2 mixes this morning because there's 260 or 70 or 80 calves. So. some of these only came yesterday, so a couple there don't quite know our system yet, but they'll smell them. See, he's smelling it. He'll find it in a minute, otherwise we'll push him up. And so we mix a bit of colostrum with a bit of the powdered milk. When they're first born at Exton, they have about a week on colostrum milk only. So when they come here, I like to try and do a gradual change. So we mix it to start with. And so from an ideal point of view, like that black and white calf there and all the black and whites and brown and whites there, it should have been girls really. And then they would have gone back into the dairy herd, but obviously that's not the way nature intended, because he intended boys and girls to be born. But what they are getting up to now, the AI service can provide you with sexed semen, so they can specifically say that this calf will be a girl or a boy. And so they're using some sex semen up at Exton, where the calves come from. They've done it for 2 or 3 years now and it hasn't been over successful, but this year they tried it, or last year they tried it, and their calves have just been born, so but that was quite successful. So they're going to do even more this year. So. And sometimes Sheridan makes pets of the calves. And so the idea is that we feed them milk for the first 6 weeks of their life, and then hopefully by then they'll be eating enough hay and straw and nuts that we buy in, and we will be able to wean them off of the milk powder, and then they will be able to go on to the solid food. When they get to about 3 weeks or a month old and they're just starting to eat nuts and hay and straw and things like that, and the old tale is that if you see a calf chewing the cud 3 days in a row, you can wean it off. And so chewing the cud is so they will take in their food, it will go straight down to their stomach, and then when they're doing their rest period, when they're sitting down usually, or they might be standing up, they will regurgitate some of it. You can actually see them belch it, sort of burp it back up. You'll see it come up their throat and comes into their mouth, and they will chew it. You'll see them stood there chewing like that, and they'll do that for I don't know how long. A vet would be able to tell you, perhaps a couple of minutes each batch. And then they swallow that again, and then they will bring some more up, and that is what is known as chewing the cud. And if you see a cow doing that, it's a sign that it's got a good, healthy and normal gut activity. So we fed all the boy calves this morning. Now all the girls are in the big shed. There's 3 bunches. But the first bunch is a group of 55, so that's only got 50 teats on it, so we have to do a bit of a mix and match on this bunch. But these are the oldest calves that I've got on the farm, so we're looking to reduce these a little bit now anyway. So the oldest calves in here were probably born around about the 25th of January, the first 1 or 2. And then most of them would have been born between the 25th of January and around about the 10th of February. And so this is Mr. Sykes. Morning, Mr. Sykes. Mr. Sykes is an arable farmer, that's why he hasn't got up quite as early as the livestock farmer this morning. Once they've all had their breakfast, we've got to do the washing up. So these are the girls that came from the turnips originally at Hambledon, and around about the 10th of February or so, I think it was the 12th of February, after we TB tested them, we ran them back along the road back to here, so we're at Denmead.
So this is my driest bit of ground for outwintering cattle on. The fodder beet is bought and they love it, you can see. So we just throw it on the floor and they eat it whole. Some people spend a lot of time chopping it up, mixing it. At the moment the weather's perfect for them, couldn't be better. They look in good condition. And we fill their silage stroke haylage feeders up and they can eat as much silage as they like. There is 164 in the bunch, so these are all the females that will go back to Exton to be milking cows. Who are you? You my friend? So these were baby calves last year. My, how they've grown. Some of them are nosier than others. This is a drug we give it's a vaccine actually, a vaccination to prevent pneumonia in the calves. Probably does other things. So one of the biggest calf killers in the farming world is pneumonia. It's got a lot to do with all sorts of things, ventilation in your buildings and all sorts. So it's a drug that you have to mix, so you get a little sort of like pill in this one, and then you have to mix it up. So I mix there now, and then we get the gun. And it's an application that goes up their nose. So it comes out of there in a bit of a spray, I think, and lines their nasal passage, and hopefully prevents the pneumonia. So yes, antibiotic use is a big topic in the agricultural industry. So let's shoot a bit of this up a few calves' noses. Prime the gun. We are encouraged greatly by everybody to try and use less antibiotics within the industry, because otherwise the bugs will become immune. Like doctors, etc., nurses, everybody is encouraged to try and use less antibiotics because they've been overused over the past few years. So that's those 9 done. So they need to be 9 days old, and we need a bunch of 25 to use the whole bottle, because if you only part use the bottle, it goes out of date. And so every time I press the trigger, it's £8. You don't want to dribble too much of that on the floor. But occasionally, as you go to pull the trigger, sometimes they sneeze or cough, and as soon as you put it in, it comes back out. So, but that's the joys of farming for you. Just checking to see if the seed's gone in deep enough, and we're drilling a bit of spring barley today. I am not a professional arable farmer. I don't even know if I'm a professional livestock farmer actually. And we've got 2 or 3 wonky old combines that we get out in the summer, and we like to harvest our own. And we bale the straw as well. So on a beautiful day like today, looking across towards Planfield. Thank you, Brian Pudge. I'm using this tractor today. So yes, what Piers is down there on the drill, having a whale of a time learning how to use the drill. And I've got lots of cows to feed, so why not grow a bit of spring barley? So we cut it with our combine harvesters and we feed it to our own cattle. But we have a lot of fun doing it. So we sprayed it off because it was rather green and weedy. Sprayed it off about a month ago. Let that die off quite nicely, and then Saturday afternoon started ploughing it. So ploughed that in, and then we rolled it to firm it up a bit. And then we went through it with, I'd liken it to a rotavator. We call it a power harrow. And so we made a nice fine seed bed. That's the idea of the power harrow. So across 18 acres it has about 5 passes. We spray it, we plough it, we power harrow it, we rolled it, we drilled it, and then we roll it again. 6 passes. And then towards the end of July, God willing, weather permitting and all that, we'll have produced its seed head, and the seed head sort of appears upright, and then when it's got enough sunshine on it and it's ripened, it knuckles over and bends back down the stalk, and all the farmers go around biting their grain and testing it for moisture. So around about the end of July we will combine it. So a relatively short period of time for spring corn, from what are we, 20 something of March, possibly until the first week in August. We have to use our concentration to keep it in a nice straight line. On a Wednesday afternoon, the vet students come to practice their dehorning, disbudding skills. So the Royal Veterinary College in London sends students to the vet that I use. They're on a constant training program with the vet students. It takes a long time to train to be a vet, and so if you're going to be a vet, you have to learn how to do everything from a mouse to an elephant, I think. And so they come to me on a Wednesday afternoon with 6 or 8 or 10 students with the trainer, and to do some disbudding. So each calf will be growing a little horn bud at the moment, and they come and take that off. So it's a little bit of local anaesthetic in the corneal groove that runs from the eye up to the horn. So they jab them with the anaesthetic, let that work for 10 or 15 minutes.
Someone want to give it a haircut?
And then they'll come back and test that it's numb, and if it's numb they will scoop it out with a hot iron with a little sort of scoopy in it, and it's a little 5-minute operation. All the cows will grow horns, and that will become a problem later in life because they will learn how to use them against each other, and you'll end up with all sorts of problems in the parlour with the cowman, and tears on the sides of the cow. And horns are bad news, really. So yes, so that's why you see, and so they mark them when they've injected them, and so then the process of dehorning. Today we are going to load the cattle in the trailer to return them back to Exton. We don't do this job on the road. It's just ever so. It's more convenient to do it tractor and trailer job.
Good swap. 485. What was Audrey? 426. 426. What's this one? So 60 of them will return to Exton. They have a little bit of spare grass up there, and I cannot cope with all of the animals that he provides me over the course of the summer because I'll run out of grass. So that's today's job.
Go on. Go on, guys. Go on. Good. Go on. Go on. Good. Go on, guys. Hey. Go on. Hey, 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 hey. Go on.
They've been in this field now for since about the 10th of February roughly. They've been fed silage and fodder beet, and they get a bit bored, and the grass on the other side is growing lovely, and so they've been looking at it for the last 10. We've got a bit of spring fever because the weather is absolutely glorious, and the cows, you know, you may laugh, but they do get excited. We will turn the remaining 104 into a lovely bit of fresh grass that they've been looking at for a while now, and they can eat that as fast as they can, and then they won't need any silage or any additional food to that, and they will graze grass all summer long. Today is the day when we turn the first lot of weaned calves out. So they've been in the shed all their life, slightly closeted, roof over their heads and surrounded by gates. And now they're off of the milk. So we've withdrawn the milk, they're eating enough pellets and hay, and they're chewing the cud nicely. So these are about 10 weeks old now, so yeah, the earliest born was about the 20th of January. And we like them to start eating grass as well. They're very excited, they're slightly frightened, they've always got a roof over their head, don't really know what a fence is or an electric fence or anything, so they go charging around the field. Sometimes they crash into the fence, and all sorts of things like that. But they've been quite well behaved, and they'll run around quite a lot, and they'll get tired fairly quickly because they haven't done a lot of running in their life. So they've settled down quite nicely now, and the weather is glorious. But if I had to say it, we need a drop of rain. That's today's escapade. Today we will be AIing the heifers. So the heifers are now around 15 months old. So there's a bunch of 105 to be AI'd. So lots of them bulling today, and the AI man comes and serves them with artificial insemination from bulls around the world.
So all the semen's stored into these flasks where they're kept in liquid nitrogen. And then we select the bull that we're going to use, put it into a thawing flask for about 30 seconds, and it's about 34 degrees. Put the straw of semen into the sheath, and it's ready and loaded to go into the animals. Good cow, put it. Anna, get it going. put our hand in, so we're feeling for the cervix. The gun obviously goes into the. We're rocking the cervix with a hand while we're manipulating the gun through till we get to the end of the cervix, and then we push the plunger and hopefully get the animal in calf.
So there's a breeding program on the farm. Where they come from, they will be using sexed semen so that we can choose the sex of the calf when it's born. And once they're AI'd, in 3 or 4 days' time, we will turn the bulls in as well. So if they haven't conceived to the artificial insemination today or within the next day or two, the bulls will then hopefully go in and do what we call the sweeping up. He is the natural, it's the natural way, and some girls prefer the natural way. And then we will do a pregnancy diagnosis on them in the autumn, just to make sure everyone is. Out of 105, we would hope that at least 100 of them will be in calf. So they don't all conceive. So we've always reared a few orphan lambs, don't quite know why. It all started as a bit of fun with the children in the garden. Seems to have escalated a bit over the past years. So the East Meon farmers, they all come from East Meon really. So one farmer spoke to another farmer, and who spoke to another farmer, and they said that silly farmer over at Denmead, he rears orphan lambs. And so they're orphans for various reasons. The mother might have 3 lambs and she's only got 2 teats. She hasn't got enough milk for the 3rd one. With the best will in the world, they might try and foster them onto other mothers, but that doesn't always work. Sometimes the mother will just reject a lamb and she just does not want it, and so has to be reared on. There's various reasons why they're orphans. When a shepherd is trying to lamb all his sheep, the last thing he wants is having to rear lambs on a bottle as well. So we take the orphan lamb, and sometimes there could be 20 and sometimes there can be 220, it just depends. A lot of it depends on the season. And so, yeah, we rear them. We rear them for the freezer, so they all go as freezer lambs during October, November, December perhaps, either around the village or to another local town. At the end of the year, everything is gone and we start again. soon. Just going to clean out one of these lovely little sheds down on the farm. So it's a very low roof and a very small doorway, so we can't actually get the tractor in there, which is very unfortunate. So all we've done is bought a couple of brand new forks and we do a lot of shoveling. So we do them about twice a year, so the calves live in there and they get bedded freshly every day, and obviously the dung mounts up. And the only way to get it outside to pick it up with the tractor is a bit of good old-fashioned physical work. Yeah, we don't want to go too far.
No.
All of a sudden I noticed.
Probably bigger too.
Go back to here. And then throw a twister in round the front.
It was just a clean, complete straight fracture across the metacarpal, which would be the equivalent of one of our finger bones. But yeah, just complete straight across. So we put the cast on for a week, then we split it in half and put it back on as like a splint. That's been on for a couple of weeks. Yeah. But they healed pretty quickly. But it was a complete fracture across. Got a nice callus, so be alright. Looks nice and straight. Success. Now she's got to be sensible for a few days while it heals, and then we'll be alright.
Yeah.